Lads, ladies, gentlemen, well, friends, good evening. How are you? Doing fantastic. And if not, a little bit better for you. Welcome back to Fennec Forza Friday. And we're actually doing Forza this time, so let's get right fucking into it. Welcome to autumn. It's the stormy season. We are in the European Automotive Championship. We're gonna probably buzz through this and do some motorsport later on. Because honestly, we're just waiting for six at this point. We're passing the time. First award is an AMG SL63, and we'll get a backstage pass. Start off doing the weekly challenge in the 74 Stratos. If you guys want to go ahead and get your Stratoses. Strati? What's the plural of the Stratos? Anyways, we got a trial for the TVR Cigaris. Let's see, it's Track Toys. Got an event lab in a language I can't read. Another event lab, which appears also in a language I can't read. Three playground
European.
games? No, it's Spanish. 3 playground games because they want us to hate ourselves. 3 promotional events for wheel spins, and then 2 championships. One of them for the Citroën, the DS23. Ooh, 4 rivals. Cool. Might hit those later if we feel so inclined. And then no one cares about the DLC. Very easy this week.
At least the trial is S1 Track Toys.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Just a sweaty class, but the cars are fun.
That's true.
As long as we don't do the class, what was it, Class C on Nuremberg like last week.
For 3 laps.
Oh, God, that was horrific.
I think I violated some sort of fucking Geneva Convention with that one.
You did. It was whatever they classify like detrimental psychological warfare. That's what that was. I need therapy to get past that. All right, so what are we doing first?
We're doing the weekly, so you need to be in the 74 Stratos. It's a
as soon as I figure out which car that is, what's the?
it is a Lancia.
Okay, I'm.
One that looks like a piece of cheese.
Yes,
Piece
it's a cheese
of
wedge.
Cheese, huh? I'm sure that once I see it, I will agree with you wholeheartedly. But just hearing you say it is kind of funny.
I entered photo mode and my game is now frozen.
You said it was the 1974 one?
Yeah, there's only one.
Oh. Yeah, no, 100% I agree with you. That's a piece of cheese. All right. I have one already and I didn't realize I did. So, does it have to be a specific class or just the car?
It's just the car for now, and then go get air skills in it.
All right,
So go
cool.
fucking ramp it off the shit. I love my cheese car.
You know
Well,
where you're headed? Yeah, just the skills. Okay. For a minute,
Yeah,
I processed that as like a drop or a danger zone or whatever, but not just the skill. I don't know. My brain's not working. It's been a long week. I'm gonna be honest.
that's fair.
Same.
Oh, your game crashed.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
what happened?
I knew you said it froze. Damn.
It was just completely frozen, so I just exited completely out.
Photo mode 2, photo E.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to enter photo mode. Misclicked.
Well, once you get back in and do your air skills, we'll go ahead and modify our cars a little bit and go in a dirt race.
Oop.
Or we can do a stock C class dirt might be kind of fun.
For chance.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm already at the point where dirt race is what I got to do, so I'll just drive around.
Alright, cool.
I don't know what class this is. I already tricked mine out a lot, actually.
Well, if you just hit pause and look at the top of your screen, it'll tell you.
Oh, really? Oh, it's an S class. Cool.
Oh, okay.
S1. Don't ask me why. I just thought that was the good move at the time. If I need to buy another one to fit in whatever we're doing, that's fine. Where did you go, man? I'm trying to look at where you ended up on the map, but it's so hard to like find people on the map.
No, I'm just south of the festival. I'm actually still at the main festival.
Oh, I found you. Yeah, I was like, man, because I wanted to come show you how quick this thing launches. It's insane.
Yeah, I kind of fucked off in the in the hills.
It's still fucking loading. Hey, time to relaunch it.
Damn.
Yeah, I had to get the Hot Wheels on it too. All right. That's totally fair, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, by the time I got to the speed camera, I was almost 190. 206 right now. Oh god, that's a rock. Cool. Yeah, that was. I think I hit like 210 by the time I got past you.
Huh.
I'm just waiting on Fennec at this point.
Oh,
Speaking of, how's it coming? Did he die?
he did.
Cool. Are you switching cars?
No, I'm modifying this one.
Okay. I'm afraid you won't be able to keep up.
I mean, can be in the same class.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, you could turn off. What's that thing? The
Class restriction.
yeah. Well, that and the part where it tries to make the cars all kind of the same. I forget what they call it, like the
Oh,
homogenization or something. Can never
yeah.
say that.
Oh,
Oh,
I think his
he
internet
really did
crashed.
die. Huh. Okay. Oh,
There he
there he
is.
is. Can you hear
Fennec.
us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There he
Okay, I
is.
was gonna say blink twice if you need help. Catch is neither one of us can see you, so you're screwed either way.
That sucks.
Ooh, that's hot. My God, you can put a fucking 4.5 liter V8 in this thing. First, it's a rally truck engine. Actually, think about it. Hi, Shotgun. Lancia Stratos FH5 Wiki.
Is your computer okay, Fennec?
I just needed a reboot.
Okay, I was gonna say you seemed like you were struggling there for a minute.
Now it's launching fine now. It's just I think when I force closed it, it broke some service because it's a Microsoft game. So I just did a reboot.
Lovely. I love Microsoft.
Don't we all?
Oh my God! You know what? This is gonna be amusing. We know what that 4.5 liter is out of.
What's it out of?
I'll show you.
Mitsubishi.
Oh, good, Shotgun. How are you? We're gonna do S1 for the dirt race, Sonic.
Okay. S1 will be interesting.
Is it? Are you limiting it to a specific type of car, like rally,
It, it,
track
it's it's
toys?
it's gonna be this car.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Because I know the thing I wanted to show you last time, but didn't get around to it. It's technically a truck. So if we get around to that, great. I still think it'll surprise you, but maybe not. And just throwing it out there that Fennec still needs to rejoin the convoy.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay, so I now have a rear-wheel drive Lancia Stratos powered by a 4.5 liter V8 out of the Ferrari 458. Apparently,
Sounds like you're gonna die.
Well, the stock V6 is out of a Dino 356, I think.
is it? Huh.
Yes.
Honestly, I think the scariest part about that is a rear-wheel drive on a rally car.
Ah, it'll be fine. I'm a professional.
I hope so, because I'm sure not. Really practicing our near misses here, I think.
Yeah.
We could try to do a head-to-head while we wait.
I'm still used to this thing.
Oh, yeah?
Fucking rowing through years in here. Shit. It really likes his fucking spin.
Yeah, you gotta really make an effort to keep control of the steering. Or do you mean like wheel spin?
No, the rear end.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I'm not surprised with the.
Oh, fuck. God.
Oh God.
You know, I hope in 6 they don't add, like, house damage. 'Cause the amount of times I fell off that corner specifically and gone into that house, I'll definitely
Yeah.
find a corner where I do that in Japan as well.
Yeah. Some poor guy's gonna consistently lose his front porch. Do they have porches in Japan, or is it like a, just like a? I know they have something similar with some of them.
Depends on the style of house, I guess.
Like the more traditional ones, they've got like
Yeah.
a porch kind of thing, but it's not like they've got here.
When at my grandma's house, my dad's side, the house, the end of her street. So there's like a long segment of road, so only like a 35. I think it's 35 on a road. People would constantly just fly down the fucking road at all sorts of speed.
Yeah.
And the house at the
Don't
end.
they live kind of rural though?
Yeah.
Like kind of out there, yeah.
Ish. But fucking there's a house, right? Like the road terminates into another road, and there's a house at the end of the road. So people would come down, flying on this road at 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's no street lights. They wouldn't see the corner, so they would just fucking fly into this house. And it happened once or twice. Then the house, so people in the house were like, all right, fine. They bought a big ass rock, put the big ass rock in front of the house, right?
God.
Problem solved, I think.
Right.
No, wrong. Car hit the fucking rock, used the rock as a ramp, and then went through the roof instead of the front wall this time.
No.
They're like, well, what the fuck? So then they proceeded to purchase several smaller rocks and replace the big rock.
No, what you do is you get several smaller rocks and put them just before the big rock.
Ha!
So that way it like fucks up their trajectory right before they hit the big rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice, you just took out a family of 4. I hope you know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's alright. They're insured.
You sure about that?
No.
Yeah.
Are you unsure about that?
Yeah. You also got a family of 4 Shadow.
Hey, at least I sideswiped him at 200 miles an hour. It wasn't dead on like whatever you did. Which, I mean, I guess in that case I probably killed 2 out of the 4.
Yeah.
Whoever was on that side of the car, just gone. Okay.
This is any car in the game. I wonder if it has a initial delivery.
Probably. I went to the recommended section and there was a anime girl livery on it, so there's definitely an additional one for it.
Ooh, that was actually fire.
Fennec's gonna try and turn his car into an anime gooning simulator.
Yeah, the Goon Mobile. The Ghost of the Goon!
Ghost of the Goon.
The Ghost of the Goon. How many jumps I gotta make? This bitch?
3
jumps?
air skills.
3 air skills, yeah.
That's so many jumps.
That's really not. Just drive over a hill a couple times, like you'll get it.
Yeah. It's not even like gray air, it's just air. I'm drifting around the roundabout down here in my rally spec car.
Oh, and the skill song is great.
My shit is done. Need to join the party. Ready when you are, by the way.
Oh, all right, let's do it.
Oh wait, hold on. Well, let's let this the score bank first.
I will find a race for us to do. It's a dirt, right?
I got
Yeah, rally.
55 grand times 10, so that was cool. I got like 10 level ups from that.
Try it back. I already was shocking. I did that earlier.
You did improve your car, right, Fennec?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure that me and Galaxy aren't in S1s and you're like in A. We're like,
Well, it wouldn't let me join, but if I did that, but yeah. I get it.
you're just sitting there like a mob boss.
That'd
Which
be me.
one of
Yeah.
you is that?
That's me.
Okay,
That's me in the suit.
alright.
It's
Godfather.
me in the suit and chair with the cowboy hat on.
Honestly, with the way like your character's hands were at the start of that animation, I honestly thought you were like ripping off a cigar at first. I'm like, okay, that's
Just jacking off.
yeah, right on the podium, right in front of everybody else.
It's to establish dominance.
That'll do it. We'll definitely do it.
I got the wheel out, so I'm gonna be so garbage.
No, you're good. You're good. In fact, that livery's fucking fire, though. That's for sure.
I agree.
Come on.
It's also got a little. It's had like that. You know that bumper sticker with like the kid pissing. It's like
Oh.
that on the camel logo on the back.
Yeah, where it's Calvin from Calvin House pissing on like, Ford or Chevy or some shit. Thank you.
Straighten up.
Thank you. Thank you. I love this thing rear-wheel drive because I'm a fucking masochist.
I switched it to all-wheel drive because I couldn't get the performance points high enough. I was like, what can I spend my money on?
Everything, all the time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I fucking put twin turbo no A lag on a fucking 4.5 Ferrari.
Yeah. I put in the racing V8.
I think that's the trophy truck one. I think.
Probably.
I saw this the 458. That was funny. You're good. You're good. It was a cross. Definitely find where this thing excels. That's for sure. Damn.
Huh?
we hit that straight tarmac patch. I was gone.
Ugh.
Sorry. Oh. Oh shit.
Oh no! Racing incident. That was a series of unfortunate events right there.
I'm not even sure what happened. I just know your dots were almost caught up to me, and now they're not. So.
We bumped, and then he spun, took us both out.
Oh no. Well,
Incident. We still have plenty of points, so we're good.
yeah. Wow, much different from last week. Or whenever the last, like 2 weeks ago now.
Two, three, four,
Two.
5. I don't know.
All right, now it's earn 2 stars at any Trailblazer.
Oh,
Trailblazer. Which one's that?
It's the fucking wrong button. It's the one where you have to go through the first gate and make your way to a second gate quickly. You have to carve your own route.
Okay, well.
I should have done this in the first place, but I just went and put fucking all-wheel drive on this thing. I should have done it at the start.
Is that an event or what?
It's
It's on the map.
It's on the map. It's one of the promotional ones. It looks like a little a GPS pin on your map.
Dude, oh, there it is. I see.
I think that's what I'm gonna
We
do.
apparently already got 3 stars on that one in the past, so that's cool.
Oh, I only have 6 gears now. Huh.
Yeah, you need to change your transmission when you change drivetrain.
Yeah, I forgot about that. All right, let's go ahead and try this again. I forgot about that part. Let's try this again.
Gold.
I think I should have done it.
Complete.
Yeah, did it. Nice. Cool. Well, if we want to go
I
ahead,
think I did it.
S1 900 European track toys. We're in next.
Is my Honda Civic compatible?
Which I don't even see that on my festival playlist, but I might just be blind.
It's the trial.
Okay, all right.
European. Is that count
Shit,
extreme track toys? No, just track toys. Oh. I don't own the 21 GT Black Series? What? No, I can't be right.
The vast majority of the track toys in this game are European.
I don't even know if I can do the trial.
Why not?
It says enter the Hall of Fame. Maybe I haven't done that part of it yet.
Ooh.
Oh,
I mean, you could still join it off of us, but you just don't see the option in there.
Yeah,
Which part of it do I have to do that?
You just need to complete the game. Like,
well,
you need to go through all, like, the
the
prompts.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well, whenever you guys are ready, as long as I can join it off of you then.
Yes, I'm looking. There's probably a car I'm missing. Let me see if it's in the. Oh, there it is. Apparently, I missed a backstage pass drop in February. Oh, I missed a few that I just didn't claim. Huh. My passes too. That sucks. Onion with fingers. What is this?
Cool.
Alright. Let me smack a livery and do some light modifications to this car, and I'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Oh! This is the car that Oliver did his safety car livery on. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap a skin from Oliver then. What can I even upgrade without getting outside of that? No, I don't want to put rally on it. That's a bad idea.
Rallies aren't that bad of an idea.
Rally suspension?
Yeah. You just need to retune it.
That's true. Put a cage on it. Can I get away with tires? Oh, I can get away with tires, actually.
No tires, just remove them. Just move off.
No tires, just gas! Wow, I can get away with a lot, actually. Alright.
You pick a car that you'd think would have a ton of livery options for them, but it's just ass. They're all terrible, man. These are garbage.
What are you in?
The M3 GTR, and the only liveries for this are shit and the most wanted livery.
The most one? Yeah.
It's literally 70% of these.
What did you say it was gonna be for this though? Since I can't actually see it
S1.
myself. S1, but
S1
European
European
track
track toys.
Okay, alright, gotcha. Yeah, let me see what I got.
So, I mean, I can't really say I'm surprised, but like,
How does it specify European track toys? Is it just track toys, but
European
from
manufacturer.
European manufacturers? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in a Benz. No.
Is it a road race? I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's a few of them.
Oh, so it's like a series then. Okay.
Yeah, best 2 out of 3. You know, you guys ready?
I'm almost ready. I gotta check on one thing. Yeah. All right, I'm ready.
Almost. Alright.
There we go. Very excited for Japan.
Japan.
I hope I still have stayed blind. I have not seen any of the first hour or whatever content. I'll be totally fucking blindsided when I go into this game. I hope there's actually some new car models in there. I hope it's not the same reused models from all these years,
It's actually going to be, it's actually to reuse Mexico, too.
Oh god. Not again.
Yep.
All right, are we all ready?
I'm ready. Thank you. Ready?
Almost.
I don't know what specifically I'm gonna have available to me in this, so like of what I have. So I'm just gonna pick the best of what pops up.
All right.
I'm good.
All right, let's do it. I have a car collection notification. Oh, I think. Hang on a minute. Hey, I finished my Mercedes AMG collection. Let's go. was the last one I was
Nice.
missing was that GT Black. Cool. Alright. 25 seconds. Remember the queue is changing too. Perfect.
It's not giving me the option to join.
It will when it's...
When it's ready.
Okay.
Or not. It didn't do anything for me.
It says finding trial for me.
Oh, there we go. Now it is.
Oh!
That was great. I was like, I'm gonna head on collide with him, and then you just disappear. That was great. That was a good time.
Kidnapped.
Should I have been loaded into there? Because
No, someone's in a pause menu. It's thinking about it.
Not me.
it's
No,
not me
it's
either.
one of our teammates. It'll take a minute.
I was gonna say, because like it went from finding session to nothing, and I'm like, huh. Like I'm still driving around, so.
There we go.
We got some decent things available tonight.
Apparently I had plenty of options ready for this. Ah well, new car.
Do I take my undrivable car, or do I take the undrivable car?
The undrivable car? What's the undrivable car?
The one that I just made.
Oh no.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Probably not. I didn't get a chance to tune in.
I've never driven this car before, so we're kind of in the same boat, I guess.
Alright, definitely have a selection of vehicles here.
Are we playing against other players?
So our team's all humans, we're playing against AI. It's unbeatable AI. So it's 5-on-5 humans versus unbeatable level AI, yeah.
Unbeatable AI.
Yep.
Huh. So that means we're gonna lose?
Nah.
Yes.
But they're unbeatable, so how do we beat unbeatable AI?
Lock in. And you get pinned into the wall by your teammates.
Was that you I just pinned, or was that someone else?
I don't know.
Oh, I missed a checkpoint. No! God
Goodbye.
damn it.
Oh, we had someone leave.
There's-
Fucking this McConnell,
Fennec,
idiot.
do you mind? Keep rearing in there.
You blocked me. What do you mean?
Not on purpose. I was just there. I'm just minding my own business. Here it comes slamming into me.
I don't know if it was just like net code, but you're like going from edge of the track to edge of the track. I couldn't pass you.
Well, My bad. Maybe I just like it when your car gives my car back shots. I don't know.
There it
I guess.
is! Oh my god!
Oh my godding.
Honestly, if I didn't miss that checkpoint, I'd be a lot better off right now. Are they all circuits like this?
Yeah. Or no,
Oh,
it might be a sprint. I'm pretty sure it's all circuits.
Either way, I think I picked the wrong car, dude. I should have picked something else. I know exactly what I should have picked, too. That sucks.
I locked the fuck in. Climbed that right to the top.
If we end up doing this again, I know what I'm picking, and it sure as hell ain't this.
What happened to sternal salt?
I need to go back and I wish I could tune it mid championship, but I can't. I need to remove. I need to change my locking diff.
Oh.
The acceleration lock is way too high. As soon as the thing spins even slightly, it's impossible to control.
I like that livery. That livery's fucking cool. Those
Thank you,
wheels are
thank you.
very error correct too.
Yeah. It's going for.
Very tasty build. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. I am taking some...
Whoever just pushed me out of the checkpoint. I hope your house catches on fire. Like, I'm sorry, bro.
I'm pretty sure it's the rando. He was bumping me pretty bad earlier too.
Man, all right, well, you can't hear me right now, but I'm sending vibes, I guess. Because that was just completely unnecessary. Like, we're all on the same team.
The catch on fire vibes.
Yeah. I'm manifesting arson into your house.
That's wild. See, I love driving the AMG, any of the AMG Black Series, because the way these things, the handling line of these cars, the way they hug the road, you can take the dumbest fucking lines, borderline flat out, and you're good.
There's a few cars like that, I think, in this at least in this game. Like, how the heck do you guys take lines like that? But whatever.
Stupidity. Stupidity.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of balls to go in there too. I don't know.
They work hand in hand.
Dude, that sucks. Like, I don't know why he did that. Like, we're on the same team, bro. Like,
he's not even good. He's
yeah,
not even
still,
good.
he trashed mine and I guess maybe Phoenix too, like our races, just so he could be
7.
not last. Yeah, like
If you don't understand, Shadow, he's not last. And he's the main character, clearly.
yeah, I guess because the whole fucking world revolves around him, I suppose.
The highest gear I've had to go into in this race is 5th. I haven't had to leave 5th gear this entire race. I'm just going
Alright.
between 3rd and 5th.
You can put your cock away now.
Fennec is locked in driving his car.
Yeah, he's silent as a mouse, and I'm just watching him slowly pull away from me.
Oh, stupid fucking corner. The brake lockup in this fucking game is just atrocious. Like there's as soon as your brakes lock up, you can't unlock them.
But
There's
you
no
don't have to do
letting
anything.
off. They're just locked.
Alright. Not bad lap times. We're in a minute, too. Not too shabby.
Well, we made it solid with the do not finish.
Yeah.
I did not finish.
Oh my god, so earlier I ran out to go to the local game store because I was looking for a Xbox 360 controller. So I ran up to my local small shop, and to leave there, it's a... In fact, you've seen the plaza there, right? It's that shitty-ass left turn in between two intersections. There's, like, not much...
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had clear traffic northbound, I had cars coming southbound, and the open center lane. You know, that like, multi-directional turning lane. So I'm like, okay, I'll just fucking do it. Every normal human being does. I will pull out into the center lane, I'll put my indicator on, and I'll wait to merge into the southbound lane, right? Like a normal
Yeah.
human being. I pull into the center lane, I'm very squarely in my lane. I did not leave my lane at all, I know this for a fact. This bitch in her Mazda jams on her brakes, almost gets rendered because of it, and flips me off. Now there's a solid car lane between me and her. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I just wanted my Red Bull and look at the controller, like... Which, by the way, speaking of, I don't know if I'll actually support that game store. Their prices are absurd. They wanted, like, $25 for a jacked-up 360 controller. Unless it's just the market, and I don't know the market anymore, but that seemed really high for me.
No. If it was, like, good condition, maybe, but if it was jacked up...
It was jacked up. It was fucked.
No, I don't think so. I think you got ripped off there.
I didn't buy it.
All right, well, what's next? Are we gonna retry that?
Yeah, Frank, you want to tune your car when you run it back?
Yo, 1 second.
All right.
Give me 1 second as well. Now that I know what I'm gonna pick here. Said it was Track Toys, right? But European.
European, yes, sir.
Perfect. I'm ready when you guys are.
I'm ready as well. Shadow,
I'm
you
still
ready?
working on it.
Oh,
I'm
no
working on
worries.
it. Give me just a minute.
Yeah, no worries, man. I removed this song. I got no. Get out of here. I don't hear this song. No,
What's wrong with your song?
it's I don't like it. I thought I deleted it from this playlist.
What's the song?
Uh, Give me some. It's just weird. I don't like the vibes.
You don't like the vibes. That's cringe.
That's odd. Doesn't recognize my Hot Wheels DLC ownership or any of my. Hmm. I can still drive the cars, so it recognizes the licenses since he installed. Oh, else game's installed this game's uninstalled in like 2 weeks anyway, so it's whatever.
You're gonna uninstall it?
Brother, the new one's 20 gigs bigger.
You're gonna slime the game? What the
Bro,
hell?
early reports state that Horizon 6 is 143 gigs.
It's not.
That's what people have been saying on at least that's the report on Xbox.
You're lying.
I'm dead ass.
You're lying.
I'm being dead ass.
You're lying.
Nah.
All right, I'm almost ready. Sorry. I had to actually upgrade that from scratch,
I see.
and that sucked, but I'm almost done.
Alright. You know, I love people who can't like read their own marketplace listings first. Like, yes, I'm sure like this one's a 2010 Ford Focus. They list it with 20,000 miles, but it has 200,000 miles. Like, come on, just proofread your shit, guys. Come on.
220, same thing, man. Why are you so sensitive?
Shut the
Yeah.
fuck up.
I would say so. Since you fucked up, I'm only gonna give you $2. Like,
Ha! I have $50 and a Twinkie.
25 and a crisp high five and a bag of potato chips. All right, I'm ready.
I got 20 pieces, 6 pack of Bush.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Alright, we're in the queue. Minute 30.
I can't figure out this tune. I'm just gonna switch to a different car.
Alright.
The good news is with those circuits, you don't really have the opportunity to get going at a very high speed. It's really, I
Yeah,
think, more about launch and handling in those than it is top speed.
yeah, pretty much. You know, one thing I really like that I hate that most automakers went away from now with their higher level vehicles. I still think that dashboards with like proper needle gauges are classy. I hate all digital displays. Sorry, hate's a strong word. I prefer gauges with needles over all digital. A little screen in the middle is fine, or a screen at the bottom center is fine, but making the whole thing a screen is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, it's customizable.
Yeah, if you can change it up, that's like if you can like the one Ford does it well with the latest gen Mustang. I like that one. Um, but a lot of them do it wrong, and that's what kind of puts a sour taste on it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite gauge cluster is gonna be the like the early to mid 2000s like Subaru with the red. It's just
Yeah.
so good.
Now we're talking. That's what's up. God, I like I don't mind the one in your Mustang. It's informative. It's very square. I
Yeah,
like
it is.
I
It is.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's good.
I like the one on Josh's, the retro '80s vibe on his with his C4.
Oh yeah, yeah, the C4 with like the silly little tachometer. That's yeah,
Yeah, that gets a pass because it's '80s tech.
and
Is
money
this the
tech.
same set of circuits as well? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
same ones. It's a set courses for these.
Gotcha.
It's basically it's a championship. Damn, that came in. It's got a good launch on it.
Yeah, I think this is a meta tune or some shit. We
I missed checkpoint. I got blocked out. All right, locking in. I can't say running three wide in that corner. Something I would have done myself. But that's besides the point.
Yeah.
All right, last fourth. Not bad. Wish we could have done better. Yeah, we're getting screwed. This is our second attempt, Dash.
Although I think we are doing better than last time for sure.
Better, yes. Winning, no.
Yeah, well. Better is the first step to winning. How about that?
Sure. We have a full team. That helps.
Yeah, that definitely does help.
Option two. People, it's just mid teammates, mid randoms. Sorry, let me
Yeah, I
correct
know.
myself. No. You guys have been locking in. It's fucking. The randoms have been all over the damn place.
Yeah. Oh, like that guy not
Yeah,
even
like that guy forgot his.
starting?
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. I figured it was better to use you as a springboard than, you know, go into last. Also,
Sorry,
you have a better chance at catching up than I would if I was further behind.
I was
This
slopping
car
real quick.
actually tops out at 146 or some shit.
I mean,
with
it's
the
kind of the
launch
top
and the-
speed of the course.
Yeah. Last one, there was actually that little stretch that I actually just didn't go any faster for like 4 seconds or whatever, and then it was fine. Oh, sorry, my bad. I thought you were an NPC for a minute. I'm like, no!
Damn.
My bad. Although that's an NPC for sure.
No, that blue car's
No,
human.
no. Behind me.
Oh yeah.
Do they have to follow the same rules of the checkpoints that we do?
Yeah.
They do, yes.
Oh yeah, so I absolutely just knocked one out of the checkpoint. Gave me-
Yeah, that one's in last. However, there is a chance they won't reset and we'll just keep racing. Because their AI just doesn't know how to like calculate the miss checkpoint. They just will.
Huh.
But if that happens, they usually, silently drop places while still
Yeah.
being in front of you. It stops counting them. Very funny bug.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while you'll come up on a car and you're like, why the fuck? Like I'm in fourth. Why is it this guy's in 12th? Yeah, fuck Pablo.
Alright, so I'm probably gonna have to call it for myself on this one after this race or this series, because my controller is getting to the point where I'm not sure why, but my right trigger is sticking and it's not
Ew.
fun.
Oh my god,
So-
my controller used to do that for so long too. I don't know why. It pissed me the fuck off. I know exactly what you're talking about though.
And I've got a spare, but I have to like find it. It's buried somewhere in a box
No
in a
worries.
closet or some shit.
Thanks for now. Oh, we're actually win this one.
I hope. Don't fucking speak so soon, man.
All right, we're on to race 3.
Oink.
Wink. I'll take a solid 4th. That's not bad.
Alrighty, we'll finish this one this time.
Stick around for one more.
Yep. I know. I'm not gonna quit now. I gotta finish it. Just sucks that it's sticking because on those longer straights, it gives it a chance to stick, and I'm like, damn it. Yeah, we're doing good this time. Is that totals, by the way, or is that per race? The points that it shows.
Um,
What's that?
the scoring system is that you get 100 points for every AI that
No,
you.
no. I mean, like on the scoreboard at the end of the race, how it says the points for each team. Is that total or the race total?
The race.
Okay.
Race. It's team total per race.
Yeah. Okay. Last one, right?
Yep.
Oh, is this a sprint?
Yes, it is.
Was this a sprint before?
No,
We didn't get to this point.
we didn't get to this point.
Oh, you're
This
right.
is the
You're right. We lost on the last one, right? So
yeah. This is the
this
the
one's
tie
this one's
redemption.
gonna suck then because I top out the speed.
Oh,
Thank you, AI. Really appreciate that. Thank you, teammate. Appreciate that too.
oh shit. Oh,
Oh my
Man.
god, all of us in one go.
Monza.
Monza. Excuse me. Oh, so speaking of the fucking, I found my very first ever laptop in my grandma's basement the other day. It's an old
Oh.
Dell Attitude on Windows 95.
Does it
Nice.
still work?
I don't know. I didn't try it. I was in the middle of something and didn't have the time to. Oh, I think oops. I accidentally may or may not have got up on the inside of a teammate and did not let him hit the checkpoint.
Damn. You cost us the game.
Nah, we've got plenty. That guy was an idiot. That Roman guy. He uses fucking... The Roman guy was the fucking dumb shit. And was trying to block me and instead just missed the checkpoint entirely.
Wow. All right. Hey teammate, fuck you. Actually, no, fuck you.
Actually, honestly, the Gemarian guy, me accidentally blocking him out is just karma / revenge for what he did to me in the first race. He was the one that knocked me on that first corner, so he can go fuck himself.
Yeah, actually no, this is the first time we did these. There was a guy that literally just pushed me out of a checkpoint in the trajectory of a like straight on wall. So I just dead stopped right off the rip. And I'm like, God damn it.
Oh no, Dash, that's fine. That was not 3 car. That was the entire lobby.
Did we win? We win.
Yeah, we
I
won.
think.
Yay.
Yippee. Get me the fuck out of here. I'm tired of being stuck in a 146 mile an hour car. Although the chicken get up is pretty sick, I'm not even gonna lie.
Do I have the chicken suit? I gotta go check. Rock out with your cock out.
Alright, Shadow, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully I'll find my controller and I'll join you guys next time.
Sounds good.
You
Alrighty.
take care.
You too.
Have fun.
Fennec, you want to keep doing the playlist? Or you want to change over to more sport? We've still got a lot to do here if you want to keep moving.
We could do the fun stuff out of it.
Alright, bet.
And not the playground games.
Do you want to do the event lab then?
Yeah. Is it on the island?
One is, one isn't.
Okay. Okay.
Why have an email from Ubisoft?
I also got an email from Ubisoft.
Oh, it's their state of residence
Yeah.
thing again.
State of the shit.
State of the shit from butt.
Butt of... Yeah. Shit
Butt
of the
of
butt.
butt of the shit.
Dick butt, dickity butt. Dick, dick, butt, dickity butt.
And like when you get to Event Lab Island, I need you to check your messenger and see what I just sent to the group chat.
Yes. Why is this on Marketplace?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Guess they changed him. Want to get rid of him? Who knows?
Just toss them out. No one's gonna pay you $3 for that shit.
Yeah.
See, okay, and then I scroll down. I see there's a listing for a 2014 Spider, same trim as mine, in white, with 3 times as many miles, and they're asking only $1,000 less than me. I feel pretty solid in my pricing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay, yeah.
when I keep seeing, like, and this is not the first time. Like I've seen that shit all over. Like on everywhere I have my Spider listed, I keep seeing that. So I don't feel like I should be moving that much in my price.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's fair.
Then my dad was like, you know, go try on eBay for sold ones on eBay. There's no sold fucking spiders on eBay, at least for that year.
Hmm. You can give it to me and I'll sell it for you.
Give it to you.
Yeah, and I'll give you a portion of the proceeds.
What? Hell nah.
Hell nah.
Hell nah.
You're
Oh,
lost.
high key. You know what I would buy? Volkswagen EOS.
Okay.
I really like them. Bubba had one before the A3. She had an EOS. I
Yeah.
loved that little car. It was super cool.
Should buy this.
Let's see this. What you sent me? You know what's hilarious? I was looking at that exact car. I was
It's got the M shifter.
I see that. Well, I was looking at that one, but then hang on, let me see what I found. And I found
That's the fucking
this.
little of this, little of that ass car.
Look at that one I just sent you.
Cleaner.
It is very clean. It is very clean.
Bad.
Oh, I think were you still in the pause menu?
Oh. Yeah. Why did you
Alright.
start?
I did. I said that.
Why?
I'm sorry.
Why'd you do that? What the hell?
I just said I was starting.
When did you say you were starting?
Well, I started it.
When I was tabbed out on Facebook.
Oh, I thought you were on your phone, my bad.
Bitch.
My bad.
Bitch. When the fuck
99
did I get this
Saab
Huracan?
93 listed 7 years ago.
I had no fucking clue when I got this Huracan. Let's try it. See if it's any good. I think I remember this one. This one's like long, like super long. For no reason.
Yeah, it is. I made the right choice in this fucking Audi. The fuck?
Fucking Ridge Racer ass. F-Zero.
Yeah, for real.
I feel like my car should, the wheels on my car should like turn sideways and activate like fucking hover mode.
I agree with the way this fucking track's behaving. Damn. How is the game not freaking out over this gravity?
This is crazy. Yeah, this isn't the one that I was thinking of. This one's crazy.
Oh,
Oh,
goodbye.
fuck.
I did it too. So this is exactly what I did before. Oh god. What the fuck? I love Mario Kart 8. It's my favorite Mario Kart game. Mario Horizon 5 Kart Deluxe 8.
This would be a lot more fun if the walls weren't buggy.
Yeah, I agree.
But no, it's just cool.
I love older hypercars. I love the older, like 2000s Astons, 2000s Audi R8, 2000s any Lamborghini. Like that was the last time these automakers were actually ingenuitive. Was the mid 2000s.
I heard a Gallardo, and then I saw a Gallardo in my rearview mirror the other day.
Hell yeah. Okay, I have passed the same white McLaren. I think it's a P1. It's a white McLaren with a fucking roof box. Color matched, by the way. Paint matched roof box. I've passed them 2 days in a row.
P1? You sure it's not like a 570 or something?
Or sorry, 570. Sorry, 570.
Okay, I'd say like there's a P1. There's a P1 here.
No, it's a white 570S. For some reason, I had P1 stuck in my head. No, it's like a white. It's like a 2013 generation 570S with a roof box. It looks
Nice.
cool. That's the billboard. Yep. Okay.
There's no way to rejoin the track. That's the problem. These jank ass corners in here.
You just gotta send it a little bit, see what happens.
I don't have a shortcut for reset the track.
Oh. Oh, a text from... Is that Cassie? Oh, a text from Cassie. She's working on designing a Sona. It's a robotic mouse named SH3L-B and the paint scheme is light blue with white stripes. And she goes, "Is this 2 on the nose?" Yes.
Flanker.
What the fuck are you wearing? I just noticed what you're wearing.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Okay. Dude, I honestly feel bad about setting up a cruise with Josh because or the lack thereof. Because we've all been itching for the season. I'm just so fucking busy for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Like, every day he's trying to propose, I'm like, I can't. I want to. God, I really want to. Fucking, I just don't get time. Let me know when you're ready. About the ready for the next one here.
Okay. I'm ready.
Real. Let's do this. What is it?
You also heard that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like an Xbox noise. Just letting us know that we were banned.
Ooh, also, hear me out. Another car I would totally buy and rock. Any Mini Cooper. Like either old or new. I quite like the manual minis. When I worked for the classic car dealer, it was a 2011. No, it was an '08 Mini S. It was a Mini Cooper S, red with white stripes and a black drop top and a 6-speed. Dude, if I had the cash, I would have bought that on the fucking spot. I loved that car. It was so
Well, you know what
much
you're
fucking
eating
fun
now?
to do. What?
You're getting a crossover Mini Cooper.
No! No! The fuck is it doing on this car? Ah! I'm in a rocket ship! I can't turn! Oh god, help me. Ah! Ah! I can't turn. My car is so straight. What the fuck? I'm full tilt to the right. It's all understeer. Why?
Yeah, this car sucks.
I should have picked my Mini. I had a Mini Cooper available. I picked this. Turn! Why do I have this? Oh, thank you, AI. Like, I totally needed your help to go into that wall. Dick. Oh, by the way, Frank, you know how the other night we were talking about the that Neverness to Everness? And
Yeah.
I was saying how, there's no way in hell they would get like a Porsche or Dodge collaboration, but I'd really see a Porsche 918 or something in the game.
Yeah.
The day after I said it, guess they fucking announced.
Porsche 918.
Porsche 918, hold Porsche collaboration.
That's hilarious. Yeah, Porsche will throw their name at anything now. It's not like they were like 15 years ago.
Which I mean is cool. I'd rather have it than not, Which,
In
by the
Neverness
way,
to Everness.
I mean, I'd rather just have it out there. Which, honestly, I'm glad it is. Because, dude, they were showing off the model in their rendering engine. Forza needs to step the fuck up. It's beautiful.
Oh, are you actually like playing that game though?
I'm gonna stick around for the Porsche collab. Can I turn right, please?
I don't know. Whatever mods you put on there, it's somehow worse than this.
Yeah. Well, it had a tire icon on it. Oh,
Oh, which means you put off-road on it.
no. These are drag tires.
Oh. So you're just trying to slam a bunch of horsepower in there? Well, that makes sense why
Apparently,
you can't turn.
I don't remember. I don't know if I actually tuned this or if I downloaded this. Oh, I remember this car now. It was bad then. Okay.
Bad
Thank God.
Ben.
Thank God that was over.
Big job.
Also, did you see that Spirit is about to cease operations?
No.
Yeah.
Why are they doing that?
They're out of money. And the deal they had with the government fell through.
What are they gonna do now?
Fucking close, sell the jets, liquidate all assets, and on to the next.
Buyout time.
Yeah, no wonder I was having a fucking painful time. Okay, anyways, on to the next. Fuck the playground games. We're gonna go do... Oh. Yeah, alright, this will be fun. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Mm.
Yep.
Oh, it's not even European restricted.
Oh, yeah, baby, now we're talking.
I got one choice. They need to put a Pinto in this game.
Yes, give me more random cars. I want... Give me more regular traffic in Japan, please. Is that a Wonder Bread? Is that a fucking Ricky Bobby livery?
Yeah.
This AI's a
He
dick.
hit me.
Yeah, he blocked me twice. Thank you, AI, for forcing me wide, you dick.
Has there been a single Forza game where you start with a D-class car?
Horizon 1.
No, I don't
Wasn't
think it's a D-class. I think it's a C-class.
is the Scirocco a C in... No, you're right!
This D-class is undrivable. Like, any fucking pushrod engine in this fucking game is, like, not fun.
Yeah. Did you know that in Back to the Future, the DeLorean speedometer was modified?
The what now?
The DeLorean's speedometer was modified?
Uh, no, I did not know that. Was it
Yeah.
because of the 85-mile-an-hour limit?
Yep.
Neat.
So they didn't actually modify the car's speed, they just changed the stickers on the dashboard.
That's glorious.
Yeah. Little neat fact.
And also, it made it easier for it to hit 88 miles an hour.
Yep. When I was in Tampa, Bub and I went to an auto museum. They had a DeLorean on display, and she's like, "The dashboard's wrong." I'm like, "No, it's not. They changed it for the movie." I like knowing random trivia like that.
Yeah. If you give me $200, I could put on the 140-mile-an-hour speedometer on my car.
Ah! Oh, straighten up.
Oh, you do.
Bitch, I saw your legs back there. Fuck you. The problem is I shift into fourth, and then I hit any hill, and I immediately shift back into third. Nice line on those corners there.
I tried to put you in the way of traffic. Could be fun.
I retract my compliment. Fuck you.
Oh, it should have really given me that.
It didn't give you the what? What? How did I give you that?
I don't know, because it sucks.
Real. Backstreet. Oh yeah. Did you know in the movie Baby Driver, the Subaru used for the opening stunt was actually rear-wheel drive swapped and not all-wheel drive like the actual Subaru. They switched out the drivetrain for it to make it easier to rip around in.
Neat. That makes sense.
It is recorded as a possible one-of-one swap, as there's no other records of that swap ever being done to that model of Subaru.
Where'd they put in it?
I think what's it out of? I think it's out of one of the rally cars. No, the rally cars are also. I don't remember exactly what they put in it. I just know it's rear-wheel drive swapped. Let's see here. Baby Driver Subaru WRX rear-wheel drive swap. He. Oh, it's having an STI.
What STI?
Doesn't say. High 200 horsepower WRX. It was converted to rear-wheel drive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where's the fucking... Okay, here it is. It is a '06 WRX Limited that has the 2.5 4-liter turbocharged from the '04 WRX STI. But no mention of what the... Yeah, it doesn't say what it was swapped with, all is that it was swapped for stunts.
Okay. Interesting.
I wish they did say what it was swapped with. That'd be cool.
Swapped with pizza.
Pizza wheel drive. All right, you ready for the last one?
What's the last one?
Audi, you like that? 800 Audi Quattro, cross country.
Okay. Throw it in reverse, Terry.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
It's my vehicle selection.
Brother. Why is there a female on your car?
It's the shark. I've had this one for ages. So I think it's funny.
Oh, it's cross country.
Yeah, that's what I said. I hear you, am I right? I'm like, I hear an engine. It's not my engine. What the fuck? No. No, 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 no. No! What the fuck? What in the rubber banding bullshit was that?
Why you lying?
Nah, he fucking just ripped by nowhere and just whizzed by me with no... What the fuck was that?
You lost.
Bullshit! That was
You
bullshit!
lost.
Bullshit!
Oh god, not the T-Rex.
God, that was
Crazy.
fucking bull.
I'm sorry you feel that way. It's okay. We've got another race. It's at Lump. It's at Lump Speedway.
Great.
For a non-off-road build car, this the only thing this thing struggles with is landing from jumps.
Huh. I mean, it's still a Quattro.
It's actually a TTRS.
With the Quattro wheel drive system, dickhead.
Nuh-uh.
Yo, huh?
I saw an A6 Quattro earlier today. The Quattro just looks better than the S and the RS, just because of all the chrome trim. It just looks better on that car. I don't know, the new ones at least.
They make the Quattro its own trim now? It used to be like tagged on the end, like just like the S5. It's the Audi S5 Quattro. I'll have to look it up. You mean like the new Gen A6?
Yeah.
I'll look that up. I don't know if I've actually seen the new A6s. I've seen the wagons around a few times. The Avants, the RS6 Avant. There's like one or two in our city. They're hot. Of course they are, you know.
Yeah.
When we were picking up the S5, there was a blue one at the dealership in the delivery bay. Apparently the guy fucking walked because like this seat trim was wrong or some shit. So they had this like 2-spec RS6 Avant that the guy no longer wanted.
How much?
This
You
is
couldn't
like,
convince you know, a slight deviation in plans.
All right, so the A6, the 2026 A6, that's what you saw? The brand new one?
No, I think it was like a 2019 or something. I don't know.
Ah, yeah. So they made Quattro stare on the A6s now. So now you can't buy a front wheel drive or rear wheel drive one now. It's only Quattro. Hey, let's go. Cool. All right, so that's all the fun stuff. There is, if you want to go smack down some rivals times, or we can switch over to motorsport.
I think a motorsport might be fun.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it then. Oh, I don't have motorsport anymore.
Oh, I see.
So I turned down my Game Pass subscription.
To which level?
Essential.
Oh, so that doesn't include any of the Forza games.
Apparently not, even though I thought it did.
What doesn't include?
Shit from a butt. Probably COD, actually.
COD's the greatest game ever. I love AI slop.
Let's see. I get. Yep, COD Warzone. DayZ.
Hmm.
Fallout 4. Uh, Gears of War 5. Uh, Warhammer 40k. That's really? That's all the
Common
major
and
hits.
uncommon loot.
Great. How much is a license for?
Like $60. Or what do you mean?
Let me see how much it is on.
I don't think you're gonna find it on Kingwin.
I'm just looking.
I don't think you're gonna be able to look. I think your eyes are broken. No.
It's on sale or no? See if it's on sale anywhere.
No. I wouldn't buy it.
Okay. It's $70. I forgot about that part. Well, at least let me uninstall it.
Yeah. It'd be crazy if you can uninstall it.
Uninstall. There we go.
Because you really have to know what you're doing on Windows to be able to manually remove a Windows app.
Uh,
Uh,
where is? Where are you aired? Okay. Yo, do you see a thieves?
uh, I don't think so. Let me see. Thieves. I think my Game Pass is still up for like a few weeks or like 1 or 2. I didn't cancel it that long ago.
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy Motorsport because I'm gonna buy fucking Horizon 6 here in a week, anyways. So
Yeah. I don't even own Horizon 5. I just had Game Pass the entire time.
oh really?
Yeah.
So I assume I assume you're not gonna rebuy Horizon 5 then, right?
Probably not.
Yeah. So that,
I'd
I'm
be
probably
like, normally I'd be like, I want to buy it so that I can have it at some point, when it goes away, and then I'm like, I don't really want to play it anyway, though.
no, exactly like Horizon 6 drops in 13 days.
They got furry games on Game Pass.